And we are live. I feel like today is like a live day.
It's good to be
uh,
alive. It's good to be alive. Nothing wrong with that.
Good to be alive. Now, it's 3:33 here. How fun is that? Um,
Super fun.
so I don't know if we can check if we're live. Um, I assume we
I'm
are.
looking, but I'm not seeing. So it says it is. So you know what? I think it's all about that trust.
Well, we are. I'm just gonna turn that down. Um, and then see. All right, so I've got it open if anybody wants to share any thoughts. Um, but yes, so welcome. I'm Danay and this is Sheila Williams. We have not gone live
Hello.
on YouTube for a while, so we thought we'd pop on and say hi and just talk about some things that have been hanging out in the air lately. So, how you doing, Sheila?
I'm okay. I'm actually feeling really good today, which is, I think, a great way of starting a conversation because today feels like a really good day.
Nice. Yeah, today's been good energy. We had a good event earlier with our last live was about the music channel that we events that we have been doing, and we had another one today, and that was a lot of fun. And we have another one in February. So yeah, the energy's been kind of um like the vibe and stuff. It's been kind of hmm, I'm trying to think of the word. Um, a little low at times. Um, I feel like sometimes it's a little harder to move through any sort of down points. Um, I feel like sludge sometimes when we're moving through things. Um, that's been coming up more. It's interesting because sometimes I'll wake up and things will feel nice and calm, and other times I'll wake up and we've talked before about my experience with anxiety, and that will be there, and it feels like it's like a climb in order to be able to um, move through to kind of like a calmer, happier state. So
Mhm.
I don't know. And I know the clients we've been talking to have been talking about similar sort of energy of just feeling like they need an extra boost of sorts to get things going and flowing. So, what's your experience like?
Well, I know there have been a lot of analogies lately about mud, quicksand, yeah, trudging, sludge. These are all really good words. We've talked about the power of words before, and words that feel heavy and dense. Those have definitely been hanging around, which is interesting. I mean, I think maybe before Christmas, but for sure in the days following Christmas, I was experiencing it for myself, just really wanting to sleep a lot, not
Mm,
having a ton of motivation to do a lot. Happy, I mean, for the most part, show up for a call, a client call, an event. But then after that, like, whoa, way down, way down. Like, let's go into turtle mode. Let's just get a book. Let's go to bed early. Um, it has been interesting. And as you say, we've talked to multiple people who seem to be experiencing the same type of just up and down, maybe not really knowing why. Like, there's nothing really wrong, but I don't feel the same inspiration to do things. And we've been getting so many inclinations and messages to have fun, to be light, to be playful. And I'll get the ideas, but then I'm tending not to follow through. Like, oh, that could be interesting. I could get a ticket. I could go to that event, that music event, that whatever. I saw something last night. There's an opera that I'd like to go see. I didn't buy the ticket. I mean, I think I will, but only because I will be looking at myself saying, oh, you remember all those other things that you didn't get the ticket for? Yeah, why don't you just go get it this time? And I think I will because I am feeling a bit lighter now. But it's been a solid month of feeling not a lot of motivation and not in a, oh, I should be getting things done productive, but just for myself, I would like to feel better. Just
mm,
with, even if I'm hanging out at home, giving myself full permission to hang out, I just feel tired or heavy or headachy or whatever. And just that message to rest and be still, which isn't one of my favorite messages because I like to do things, whether
Yeah.
it's fun things or work things or whatever. I don't like the message of do nothing because
Yeah.
it doesn't feel relaxing to me. When you don't feel, it's like you want to take time off school and work, but you don't want to only do that when you're sick. You want to do it when you feel energy.
Yeah.
And I felt more like that. Nah, let's just stay in bed.
Well, yeah, and this kind of brings up this whole idea for those in the northern hemisphere that the weather is kind of right?
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
and there's less sunlight and it's colder. Um, and I mean, years before, I would thrive in the colder weather, and I've noticed that as I continue to do things, that certain things have shifted, and I still appreciate all of the seasons, but I find that there's something potentially different about winter that kind of wants to make you sort of cocoon
Yeah.
and 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 just kind of keep to yourself. So uh, it's like the reserves for your energy need to be prioritized in a specific way that give you the opportunity to kind of prioritize. Maybe that's the point of this energy is to allow us or encourage us to really prioritize in life because a lot of us have the tendency to spread ourselves way too thin and say, look,
Yeah.
I want to do everything. But if you're only allotted like a certain amount of energy because like you're being propelled to rest and allow yourself, like we will keep pushing. Like you and I are the types that will just go, 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 go. And that's not healthy for us, right? Like we have to have time to sit back and relax. So if we're given like a sort of like a set limitation that says today you get this amount of energy before you're like encouraged to rest, then we prioritize what's more important, what's most important for me to put my energy into today, and then be okay that the rest of it won't get done because we need to rest. We need to be um, taking care of ourselves. So, hello to those who have hopped on the call. Good to see you. Um, we've got a comment here that it's in the stars, taking joy seriously. So one of our new friends, Kitty, is I want to see if I can remember what she titles herself.
You could
Storyteller
type
of
it in
the
the chat.
Stars. Kitty, you can correct us if I said it wrong. Anyway, I watch your videos and then it just doesn't land for me. But um, anyways, very skilled with astrology, and that has some interesting insights about how the energies around the planets come into play. But it's a really fascinating sort of perspective. But I think a lot of us are being propelled right now to pick what's most important and allow us to focus there. What are your thoughts, Sheila?
Well, the prioritization I think is really important because I am someone who, in my opinion, feels better when I am doing something. And I don't mean that I always have to be in some kind of energizer perfection mode. For me, doing something is sitting with a cup of tea and a book. I love taking that time to consciously focus and do things, activities that feel good for me. So it's when this, oh, nothing feels like it will be feel satisfying, that I think has thrown me off a little bit. It's I think been useful as I was navigating this to, as you said, be really easy on ourselves and don't make a big giant to-do list that feels like you're going to fail right off the top because you know you're not going to want to do most of it, if any of it. So why set yourself up for failure right from the beginning? That's always been one of my expressions, to set yourself up for success.
Mhm.
So you're right, to constantly keep adding to this to-do list where you know you're going to feel bad at the end of the day thinking, yep, didn't do those again today. Well, that's not helpful. So to put that aside as best you can, And then I was taking it a few steps further into what might feel fun. What could feel fun that might entice me. It's like when you are sick and you think, yeah, I want to eat, but nothing feels like it's going to taste good. You do take a little bit of extra time and attention to think of foods that might be a little extra yummy, or you do go through your savory sense memory bank and think, oh, what would actually make me feel hungry and want to have more? So for me, I added in some pieces of creativity. I've been so proud to tell people that I know, I got a sketchbook and I got these fun pencil crayons and I got some colored gel pens. And when I'm on calls during the day, if I'm not needing to be actively engaged, I'll be doodling, I'll be sketching. I'm by no means an artist. I'm doing it just for the fun of it, to make sure that I'm allowing myself a creative outlet, right? And so I am not downplaying that everything I do is bad. I can see your expression right there, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it is not that I have an artistic inclination. I think it can benefit everybody to do something that feels good. Something with your hands can be particularly useful because it engages a different part of your brain. And I think it allows you to hear what's going on differently and maybe perceive the moment differently. And even if you use it as, say, I am sitting, but I'm still doing something because that makes me feel better. Because for me to just sit in a chair and stare at a blank wall, I mean, I can do it. It's just not that much fun. I do prefer a little bit more stimulation than that. So
Yeah.
if you're sitting in a comfortable chair and you're knitting or crocheting or doing a needle craft of some kind, or sketching, or squishing Play-Doh, anyone who's worked with kids, which I have, that the tactiles are fantastic because it just lets them squish and mold. And even just kneading, cooking, I used to do more cooking type activities as opposed to crafting. And I think that it offers that same value where my mind is engaged. Making bread is amazing because you're constantly kneading, you get into a rhythm, and you can feel the difference of how the dough is changing under your hands. So there's satisfaction in these smaller types of tasks, even though you might not be getting your taxes started or cleaning out your drawers, or for me, responding to emails. I have been not answering emails lately, and part of me says, ugh, what will people think? I haven't been getting back to them. And the other part of me says, it's not right now, not today. I'll check in again later or maybe tomorrow. And that just, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, you're bringing up some interesting points, and it's almost like it's not uncommon for us to be on the same wavelength with thoughts. Because I was thinking maybe we're just being encouraged, in addition to resting more, is to actually play more. Because we get
Mhm.
focused on like all the tasks we need to get done. And
Yeah.
you and I have had conversations about not creating a to-do list, but creating a can-do list to
Mhm.
kind of soften this idea of pressure around it. Um, so thinking, yeah, playing with your hands, being creative, because we're putting all this energy into like the day-to-day tasks, the whether it's, us working with our businesses, managing day-to-day stuff within the home and all that stuff. Like, when do we stop and sit and go, well, I want to play right now. I'm gonna take some time to experience play. And I think that carries some energy around it and says, yeah, like play more. Because I was thinking about children, and you know, if they're sitting there doing things that are like, you have to do this one after the other, at one point they're going to be like, no, like you're
Yeah.
just going to be
Things are
like,
going to hit the wall literally. It's like,
yeah, they're just going to be like, this is where the puck stops. Like,
yeah.
where I want to play. And I think maybe that part of us is starting to merge to say like, what, where the heck is the playment? Like, why aren't we playing more? And that creates this energy of maybe January and February are meant for play and rest. Obviously we have things that we want to do and we both find enjoyment in the work we do. But there's still a flavor to it being work rather than it just being play. So um, I think that's what's maybe, I recently there was a message about um, we're not feeling tired because we um, aren't sleeping enough or all those things, but I'm sure those play a factor, but it's because we're not doing the things that light us up. And the stuff with play, those light us up, or finding something that excites us. And a lot of us are still in the same sort of repeated pattern because of the weather. We can't do much beyond it. But when, those that are experiencing nicer weather, um, are probably getting out more and doing more activities because the weather is allowing for it. So there's so many factors that are coming into play with these experiences. So
Yeah.
we've got a fan of Play-Doh here. So Lori agrees with Play-Doh. I think Play-Doh's great. Um, yeah, there's some agreement on being encouraged to rest and talking about playing more as a focus, which is great. So just making, joy part of a series part of the day, as mentioned before. So
Love it. And being intentional, like Kitty's mentioned a couple times in here, of just setting intentions and being intentional. And you said it yourself, Danai, that we're just in a routine. We're in a habit in many ways. And I think those habits do begin in November, as again, we're speaking from people who live in kind of more northern parts of Canada that do get snow and ice and the darkness and all the rest. And so as you're morphing in through October into November and the weather is turning, but I think it it almost sneaks up on you because you are looking ahead. Again, for Americans, Canadian Thanksgiving is in October. So November has nothing like that for us. But we are looking ahead to Christmas. We are looking ahead to maybe vacation plans or family plans. You kind of, I think, there's all the lights being put up for Christmas, whether you celebrate Christmas or not, doesn't matter. I know for me, driving down the street when it's pitch black at 4:30 at night, it always feels better to have all the Christmas light standard type things on, and everything feels brighter. You drive up to the house and the lights are on, and everything feels kind of festive. And then Christmas is over and all of that kind of gets put away, and now it's just really dark. It's cold, and it's probably snowier and icier than it was in November. And yet you're still kind of in this doldrums, almost like this neutral zone of what is there to feel good about. And I mean, I'm not trying to be depressive, but I think that's sometimes how it can feel. I know for myself, the fact that the sun is setting closer to 5 p.m. instead of 4 p.m. has already lifted my spirits. I can feel the difference. I would like to be in a place where it didn't matter. I'd like to not care. And I know that there are lights that you can get and whatnot that help out with that. But they are very specific. It's not as easy as just, oh, it's 4:30, I feel like going for a walk, because that's what feels best to me. So
yeah, yeah, and you're bringing up some key points in here that, like, we're talking about these factors, and you're mentioning that the key is not to have this be a conversation that is low or depressing or any one of those things. I think it's important to talk about these things so people know that they're not alone. If they're
yeah,
feeling this sense of lethargy or defeat or just fatigue, like, have compassion, be gentle with yourself. Maybe take that as a sign and say, like, how could I reprioritize things in my life? What carries a lot of value for me, and what's like points on a pick me up scale or something. Like, there's this activity, maybe it's playing with Play-Doh or drawing, and that usually does 2 points of a pick me up. So maybe I'll do that today or find some time to do it. But it's being, first and foremost, gentle with yourself and kind with yourself. If you're finding that maybe the energy isn't there like it is normally in the warmer weather. And those who are experiencing warmer weather, like, send a little love our way.
well, and that's it. And I think it's to bring the elements of that into your routine as best as you can. And honestly, I think it doesn't seem to be what our first instincts are, but whenever you can, it is to bring out that word self-care
Mm.
and to notice again, to bring Kitty's word in of intentional, like, are you intentionally offering yourself early bedtimes, satisfying bedtime routines? Maybe early isn't what feels better for you, but are you giving yourself a chance to wind down at the end of a day with maybe a bath or candles or a book or music, and transition to a place where you're setting yourself up for that successful night's sleep? Are you waking at a time that feels good for you? I mean, being jarred awake by an alarm at 5 a.m. can make an impact on your day if you allow it. And so, whenever you can, to whatever the circumstances are, wake up rested. And if it can be on your own time frame so that you're following your own rhythms, that will just feel better. Not always possible if you've got pets, children, jobs, all the rest. But how can you find a way to add in any element that way that will feel better? and and I think it's the little treats for yourself too, of could you have your favorite tea or coffee available for you in the morning? Could you give yourself some self-love, where maybe if again, everyone is so different, but going for a pedicure can feel really good in the middle of January, because it just brings your attention to not only having touch and feeling as if your toes look good and your feet are soft, but maybe it makes you think of summer, and when you are outside wearing sandals, and just evoking, watching shows that allow you to evoke those feelings, and finding some lightness. As you say, find the play, plan sometimes to meet with friends or have a theme gathering where you're going to be focusing on something that feels good for you. It doesn't have to be a lot of work or money or time, but it's just intentionally setting that idea of what will feel fun today, what will invite joy in for my day today. And it could be something super simple, buying yourself a single flower and putting it in a vase. I know lots of people, for me, by February, when you can start to see the yellow daffodils available in the stores, love that. I absolutely love to have a vase of yellow daffodils, because the weather outside does not reflect daffodils, but darn it, inside it sure feels good.
Well, you're bringing up a point that reminds me of a conversation that we had in the course that we just did around money and rewriting your money story. And you were talking about like the prioritizing, finding what finding something that you can have an unlimited amount of. And it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to be fancy. It's just something that excites you that you're not going to set any boundaries or limitations around. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like we talked about this in the course, but it's more than like the topic itself is like money isn't the only thing. It's more about the idea of your energetic currency, which I think is what I
Mhm.
was getting at earlier with this sort of um, amount that we feel like that we have given the energy lately. And it's saying, well, what's a priority? What's something that lights you up or excites you that you really aren't going to be flexible on? We talked about some people really enjoy a cup of coffee. I've been thinking about having more tea lately because there's something about like a cup of like black tea that just kind of warms me up. And then as long as it's not overly caffeinated, I'm usually okay. But I find it is like a nice pick me up, but like I don't have to worry about setting boundaries around it in like a monetary sense or any sort of restrictions that we set in our day-to-day life. Like what's a have to do in a day for you to feel good? I notice when I don't go for a walk first thing in the morning, I have to go for a walk and I enjoy it. I enjoy having fresh air, even when it's a blizzard outside. I will make an effort to go out for a walk because I know the movement makes me
Yeah.
feel good living in a smaller place. So find out what your priorities are. What are the actions and activities that you have in your day-to-day life that are, have tos, I guess. I don't even know what to call it. They're just priorities that they're part of your self-care. It's important.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, I think it's, that it is see, and then I had the word and then it went out of my head, but it is that feel good. I think as opposed to the have to, it's like the feel betters.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
is
it's like a
fun to have. Yeah.
non-compromising thing. Like for me to
Yeah.
feel good, these
Yeah.
it's love. It's showing yourself love. It's self-care.
Exactly.
And we talked
Yeah.
about, we've talked about a number of times that self-care is not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Yeah.
So like don't don't sell yourself short in the self-care category. Like allow yourself to indulge in the
Hmm.
things that make you feel good. So,
Yeah. Well, and I love that word indulge because, again, because we've had so many conversations about money with people, to make sure that people understand indulge does not have to mean expensive, but it means be luxurious in your intention for yourself. And so for me, I'm a bath person. So to buy candles or and we're not like nothing expensive, it just has to be maybe some tea lights to put around the tub or something that smells good, or the time, taking the time to have the bath, that is pretty luxurious sometimes. When you're feeling like you don't have time, it's like, ooh, but I'm going to make the time, because it's all that intentional love towards yourself. And whatever it is for me, I really enjoy doing word puzzles like Wordle and Quirtle and all these different ones out there these days. So if I am finding it's the end of the day and I haven't even done one, I think, well, wait a second. I'm pretty sure I'm worthy of sitting down for 5 minutes and doing a word puzzle. I'm pretty sure that I could make that choice for myself and nothing is going to go wrong. So I choose to do that. And that feels good for me. And so that's where we were talking about, whether it is a favorite brand of something, even just buying really good cream for your hands. Sometimes that can be just a wonderful, luxurious type of action, because then you have touch. And, in the cold weather, your hands often get very chapped and dry. So it can be soothing. It can smell good depending on the scent that you choose. So you can make it an experience that feels good for you, that is showing you, again, with that intention of, ooh, this feels good. And I am choosing to do it for me. Even if it's 30 seconds of putting hand cream on, you can choose to have it be more than just, I should put some cream on, to, I'm going to give myself this experience and really be mindful about it and massage it in and smell the smell that feels so good for me to smell. And that's, again, choosing yourself.
yeah. Yeah, and you're bringing up an important key point of mindfulness or being conscious while you're doing it. Very present.
Yeah.
Is that we do a lot of things, but we just kind of graze by them and we don't think about it. But if you're being mindful about the action, like you're stopping and saying, I'm choosing to do this right now.
Yeah.
I'm not just floating by on autopilot. That's, I think, a lot of it is that we spend a lot of our time on autopilot and we're not realizing that it's important to come back to being present in this moment, in this now moment, to say, this is me choosing to do this. And Kitty brought up something lovely in the chat here about a fun accountability partner. So the
Yeah.
idea of like talking to a friend or a partner or a loved one and saying like, I want to add more play into my life. I want to be lighter in life. So why don't we share ways or be accountable with each other and saying like, I played today, and
Yeah.
it's it's valuable because then it's having that support system, right? So
Well, because it can ripple out, and that's the fun part. I know that I run a membership group, and we meet twice a week. We've got a chat. And one day I had been on another call, and the person on that call put on some music, and just to open the call, get the energy moving, and encourage people to get up and dance. And I was thinking, like, oh, I don't really want to. And then by the time the chorus came, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of know this song, don't I? So maybe I do want to get up and dance. And I did feel better for that. I did feel the energy flowing. It was maybe 2 minutes of just bopping around in a room by myself, but it did feel good So that inspired me to go find a link for that same song, put it in our group chat, and like, hey, anybody, I dare you to listen to this and not get up and dance a little bit if you can possibly do that. And it was fun to have the conversation after and find out who did it and who were ended up listening to other songs so that they could keep dancing. And it's can be so valuable to share what you're doing. It doesn't, you're not trying to make anybody do anything, but how good to just share the energy of it, because most likely the ripples of that mean that they will be on the lookout more for something that is a match to that higher vibration.
Yeah, it's making it contagious, right? And I remember getting that message
Yeah.
because I'm in your group, and it's like that group itself is excellent for that supportive, loving environment that like it's such
Yeah.
a beautiful, close network of people who are genuinely wanting to support each other in all ways. So it's like you've created a really beautiful group. So I'm celebrating you for that. But I remember seeing that message, and I'm normally the type who enjoys dancing, but I find lately that there's just a little bit of a I don't really want to kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I saw you put that message in the group, and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna try. And the lyrics were beautiful. Like if anybody's curious, it's Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield, and it's it's a beautiful song in a sense that you decide each day, and this is stuff that we've tuned into, allowed it to flow. I've definitely channeled this information that each moment, like it's a blank canvas in front of us, that we're writing the story as we go. And yes, we're going to have moments where we feel defeat. We're going to feel sadness. We're going to feel tired. And it's normal. We're human. Um, but allowing these opportunities to just try, even if you feel like it's not going to work, just give it a try. And if it doesn't, that's okay. You tried.
Mhm.
And if you have a moment where you get up one day and you're like, I just want to sit and watch Netflix all day, honor that. You're not
Yeah.
going to spend your entire day. And at some point, your brain's going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. you know Maybe you need an extra nap that day. Sleep has been a little off for me lately, and maybe Kitty's got some stuff about what's going on with
Mhm.
astrology to say, like, why am I not sleeping? But it's honoring where you are and trying even the littlest of steps to get yourself out and feel a little more joy where you can in life, but not to create um a pressure or an expectation on yourself that, why are you not, uh, you know, floating around and bouncing around like the happiest person in existence? We have normal ebbs and flows. The channel talks about the idea of our, we have a night in our year, just like we have a night of our day, and a day of our year, just like we have a day of our day. Like there are some points in our
Yeah.
year that are going to be more involved, more action, more doing, more, and there's going to be other ones where we're going to be called inwards to be more still, more quiet, more restful, more introspective, all these things. And it's to follow the natural flow of things. But when you're feeling kind of rough on particular areas, reach out, connect with people. You
Mhm.
have support around you, and you have tons of resources online as well.
Well, I think in so many ways, we're more connected and we're more isolated than we've ever been before. And I know that I think it's February, maybe it's January, but I've been seeing, okay, let me backtrack. I don't know anything about the month of it, but I know that I've been sitting and watching hockey with my parents lately because I'm staying with them for a little bit. And there have been a lot of interviews and commercials all about mental health. So whether that was specifically about the end of January or they were leading up to February is what I mean. I don't know. But there's such a focus on how important mental health is for people because we're in our heads all day long. There's no denying it. It doesn't matter where you would rate yourself on on happy or sad. We are in our heads. We have these thoughts going through. I'm sure Danai would know a number from all of her studies, but it's a lot, and it's a lot, and some days it's really a lot. And so when that's what your prominent influence is that voice in your head, it might be telling you great things, it might be telling you terrible things. Sometimes it feels hard to know, like, who is thinking these thoughts. I thought I was the thinker, but they just kind of coming in and I don't know if I agree with them. They don't really feel good, but they just keep coming in. And it often feels as if you can't detach from those thoughts. And that's where I think the kinesthetic activities like the
Mm.
Play-Doh, someone put like kinetic play sand, that can be really satisfying. The crocheting, it just helps engage your brain. It's like, whoa, you know what, guys? Hey, you thoughts, we need to think about what crochet stitch to use here, or whatever the term might be. Like, let's just actively look over here for a little bit, because I would like a break from all of these looping thoughts. And thankfully, people do have accessibilities to support networks. They do have friends. They can reach out easier than ever before through chats and free phone calls. I remember back in the day when it was $2.95 a minute to call people long distance. It was ridiculous. And now you can be anywhere in the world and you have access online. And yet, I do think that many people feel more isolated because we are working from home. We are engaging with our community online. We're not getting up and going to meet people at church or school or at our hobby group. Some people are, but many people aren't. And I think it's so important for us to be aware before anything starts to feel too low. I want to feel happier. I want to look for joy in my day, and I want to reach out to people, have an accountability partner, have someone to be creating that energy and connection with. And that's, I'm not trying to take our conversation two-way sideways, but I
Mm.
think it's really important to know that it has to be a conscious choice, because otherwise we end up just staying in that routine that Danai's been talking about, because it feels like you're in a groove and you're just walking back and forth, and that groove is getting deeper and deeper. And if you wait too long, it gets so that you can't even see over the ground anymore. That's how it feels to me sometimes, at least.
Yeah, no, that's a good sort of imagery to associate with this repeated pattern. And when you were talking, one of the things that kept coming up is like a pattern interruption, finding
Yeah.
something to break your pattern up. And I remember, there is someone else that I listened to their videos and was talking about the idea of like, what is it that you do in the morning and paying attention? Like, I will deliberately brush my teeth with my non-dominant hand just to break the pattern up. Or instead of, brushing my teeth and looking at my phone, I'll stare outside for the, 3 or 4 minutes that I'm doing that. And there's something interesting that happens. There's like a resistance that comes up and says, what are you doing? Like, you've got your pattern, you've got your behaviors, do that. But like Sheila says, if it's not productive, if it doesn't feel good, and productive in a sense of not getting actions done, but productive as in like helpful or beneficial or increases your quality of life or your feelings, then find things to break those patterns. You know, find a moment in a day where you actually just stare outside the window for 3 minutes, 5 minutes if you're a champ, because it's really interesting to feel your body sort of cringe and your mind going like, what is happening? Because you may have nothing to stare at. Like, I have enough traffic out here that there at least something to stimulate me, but it's boring. But it does stop like this ongoing autopilot that we were just talking about. Break the pattern. Find something to break up your day, because we are like, you and I, we work from home. We engage very little with the outdoors. This is why I think walking helps me. When most of the business is online, that's where we spend our time. So it's finding ways to engage outside with people. And sometimes you just don't have the energy to do it. So find other ways to break up the pattern until your energy starts rising to be able
Yeah.
to invite other things into your life. So,
Well, and I think the key is to keep it as simple as possible, right? We're to be aware as even more than you are now, so that you can get out ahead of it, no matter what it is. If you're feeling joyful, yeah, be aware of that and emphasize it and encourage yourself to continue. What else could we do now? I just laughed at that really funny thing. I wonder what else I could laugh at today. What would feel fun? Because we're definitely not just talking about the lows, but to have that conscious awareness and to be setting the intentions. How do I want to feel? Because when you are in those lows, you're probably not there because you intentionally wanted to feel low. You so you kind of got there more likely by one of these habitual types of things, like thinking some old thoughts or being in an old pattern. And so this is where you have the awareness and you can just notice and give yourself a little shake and go, well, that's kind of funny. This is where I ended up. Maybe this is kind of this is how I feel at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I start to feel like the energy's dragging a bit, or this is how I feel when I'm not getting enough sleep. And so it's fun to think, okay, well, how would I rather feel? I can choose. And I might not go from feeling super depressed to super joyful in 3.7 seconds, but boy, oh boy, I could go to, feeling a bit sad or tired to maybe being curious of what might feel better for me later on today. Because curious is already a shift up in terms of that energy, because now you're more interested in exploring something. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Anna puts make faces at you in front of the mirror. And that's it. Like just be silly, be playful, and even just moving your smile muscles. Studies, I think, if again,
Yeah.
Danai can tell me, like studies have shown that if you just make yourself smile, all of these muscles will trigger as if you really were doing it. But again, I think we have so many videos of puppies and kittens and babies these days that you really can find something to to make you laugh or smile. And it's just finding those small things purposely, consciously, with intention. We can keep navigating and course correcting throughout our day. And again, we're not saying everyone has to feel like they're dancing on clouds, but if you are noticing you're not feeling how you would like to feel, I think that there are lots of ways that you can just find small changes. Just really small changes are all it could take to completely shift your course. I mean, I think it's often said, if a boat or a ship changes its navigation in 1 degree, it'll end up going somewhere completely different. And that's all it can take sometimes, I think, is just those little 1 degree shifts.
Yeah, for sure. And playing off of your, well, what would you rather feel sort of um, statement, which is really important. It brings it into another level or an expansion on top of that to say, well, what would I rather feel? And then what would that feel like? Because you have that
Yeah.
experience of it. Like if you're sitting there going, I'm tired and I just don't want to handle today, like it feels too hard, then it's like, okay, well, what would I rather feel? I'd rather feel lighter or maybe content or happier or maybe rested. Okay, well, I know what that feels like. So then going into your imagination or going back into a past memory and saying, well, what did that feel like?
Mhm.
And just like you're mentioning, yeah, there's research that shows that if you hold a smile, that it triggers all the responses to say that you must be happy about things. Now, there's some added points of it that you can't just sit there and smile all day and it's going to make everything better, but it is a
Yeah.
start, right? It's the same idea of like affirmations and saying like, maybe somebody who doesn't feel happy about something in their life, they can say an affirmation that's the complete opposite, and it'll have a positive impact as long as the person can lean in that direction of what it would feel like. But then
Yeah.
maybe saying statements like, maybe I'm more energized than I realize, right? Adding the then I realize aspect to it says, well, maybe then you do create a curiosity within yourself and go, huh, maybe I'm not as tired as I thought, you know? And
Yeah.
it's not jumping in your 3.746 seconds or whatever. It's 4 seconds, but but it's the idea that you can just make the tiniest shifts. And like you talk about with the course corrections, that it does change the trajectory quite a bit. You have no idea how the smallest action can have the biggest impact on your day, your week, you know?
Yeah.
So playing with that and allowing yourself to imagine or to remind yourself what it feels like to feel good about these things.
Yeah. Can I bring up one example that I know you and I have both have personal experience with is meal preparation. And I think that this is a great example for that set yourself up for success part that I was talking about, because I'm pretty sure most people have some firsthand experience with that idea of, ugh, I know I'm hungry and I know I should eat, but I don't feel like cooking. And you open up the cupboard or you open up the fridge and just go, ugh, nothing really looks good. There's nothing here to eat, like to even eat. Like some people might just go to grab goldfish crackers or something. Like, fine, at least I'll be eating something. And I don't even want these. Like it's real. The struggle is real. And so I think knowing that about yourself, it gives you the opportunity that when you are feeling more energetic and you are going grocery shopping, to imagine, project ahead a little bit. I wonder if there's anything that looks good now that I know will be a good go-to for myself when I'm in those times. And whether it's some prepared type meals or nuts, dried fruits, I like certain types of granola bars, and I know that they're just more snacks and not healthy, but for me, I know that they're going to be enough that it gives me that little bit of something now. But frozen fruit can be a great one because you want to be able to have something that maybe you're not going to want it this week. And so fresh makes it a little tougher. I prefer fresh whenever possible, but you know what? There are some canned things that are good options, that are soups or fruits or whatever. When I was young, applesauce used to be a go-to for me because I thought it was so sweet. And obviously, I probably couldn't even eat applesauce now, but my tastes have definitely changed. But when I was young, boy, oh boy, the applesauce. And we used to have it in the cans when I was young. And now it's more these little packaged things that you put in kids' lunches. So that's actually not a bad amount. But it's just that I know I'm so hungry right now, but I don't feel like cooking, chopping, imagining, defrosting. All of that is a hard no. So it's just giving yourself, in the moments when you are feeling the light and the energy, give yourself the opportunity for that future you to have ease and satisfaction. And we could pick all kinds of topics about the same thing. Like if you like having the baths, you get the bath stuff. If you don't like your sheets and you aren't sleeping well, you could have a really nice, freshly, crisply made bed to crawl into at night. For me, that's a go-to. I will make my bed in the morning just because it feels so satisfying to get into bed at night when the sheets are pulled tight and everything feels good. So it's being aware what matters for you.
Yeah, these are like the little gifts that you leave yourself throughout the day. Um, and they're valuable to have. And on the note of food preparation, like you have a lot of good advice around this area. And one of the things that you suggested in previous conversations was, who says you have to make dinner at 5 or 6 at night? Like, why not get it started in the morning so that there's less work to do later on in the day when you're ready to put it together and as an actual meal? And that never crossed my mind because it just seemed like an odd thing to say, like, but that's when you have breakfast or you're getting ready for lunch or
I don't know
brunch.
how many meals. Yeah, I put in a crock pot before I go to work or, go to take care of kids. And I was always so happy. It's like, thank goodness that's done already.
Yeah. Well, the crock pot makes sense because that's like it'll take the day to cook, but even just preparing like, a protein ahead of time, and then it doesn't take long to reheat the protein and you add the protein with whatever sides or salad that you want to
Yeah.
have. But what I remember when you suggested it and I went, she's crazy. Like that's that's not dinner time. I find like I'm most satisfied with breakfast because like I take the time to make something because I have more energy. But by the
Yeah.
time dinner rolls around, I'm like, bowl of cereal it is. Like You know, it just, you know, tonight I have leftovers, so I'm excited. I know what I'm going to eat, and I have that. That's another thing. Prepare more than what you need
Yeah.
so that you have more to go to, and you can package it in freezer, like serving sizes in your freezer. Like it, there's some people who are very skilled at meal planning. I am not one of them. I find like the day-to-day stuff is where I'm like, oh, what do I do? You know, and it's bringing it down to those that are so caught up in other sort of experiences, thinking about things beyond their day-to-day
Yeah.
life, having expansive conversation. It's like, remember, you actually have to eat.
Yeah.
So, uh, it's interesting. I don't know, like it, think outside the box, and there are no rules. There are no rules. Eggs for dinner, 100%, you
Oh,
know?
100%. I'm a huge breakfast for dinner person because
Yeah.
it sometimes it feels easier.
Oh,
And I love batch cooking food. That used to be how I would spend Sunday is I would make 3 or 4 different entrees, full meal sizes, and then that's because I love leftovers for lunch. I am not a sandwich person. I just please don't offer me one. I would much rather have a spaghetti or stew or whatever else might be there, but I want it to be quick and easy and heat up. I don't like lunch in terms of chopping. I would never make a salad for lunch. Are you kidding me?
yeah.
If I had salad made from the day before, I'll eat it. But I do not want to be chopping cooking because I am so over the experience. I still haven't eaten. That's what happened today. I went to go eat after our call. I was like, oh, there's nothing to eat. And so I got everything out for a salad and I made the salad. By the time the salad was made, I had to go to another call. It's like, oh, well, that's stupid. So after that call, I ate an apple, which made me late for you, but it's like, well, but I have to eat something. And so I actually have not even had lunch today. It was hilarious, but that's how I know it is for me because I didn't have leftovers. But staying with my parents, it kind of throws off my normal meal preparation. And so it's fine, but it was really funny of knowing, really, I just made this whole giant thing and I didn't have anything to eat because I didn't want to be crunching salad on a call with someone. So it was funny.
Yeah. Um, and this brings it, like, rounds it back to the beginning of why we feel lethargic and why we feel
Yeah.
tired and defeated. Maybe a bunch of us are just not eating good meals.
We're just hungry.
We're just hungry, and all we need, like, food. Honestly, there's such a difference that happens. I know if I'm crusty or cranky and you'll message me and you'll be like, did you eat? And I'll be like, no. And you're like, eat something. It's, there's something loving about feeling like this density, this filling in your belly. It's not like a overeating sort of experience. It's like a, oh, I feel satisfied. And when you're grazing all throughout the day or not having things that are filled with nutrients and nourishment and got that protein in it, then you're sitting there going, I ate, but I don't feel full. And
Yeah.
I'm finding that a lot lately because my mind is focused on the work I do, the products I create, the conversations, the events, and all that. I'm not thinking about my meal planning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Lori's put in the comments here that she worked for a meal prep business for many years. So maybe we just all message Lori and say, what are we eating for dinner? Like, she says it's so fun. There are people that get excited about this, and I loved cooking. When I was
Yeah.
doing my thesis for my PhD, I would deliberately make the most elaborate meals to not work on my thesis.
Exactly.
I
That's the
would,
problem. You like your
yeah,
work too much
yeah,
now.
yeah. I would make pasta from scratch, um, you know, pizza dough, breads, like all sorts of things that I could say I could be like, well, it's for my meal, and
Mm-hmm.
take the time to make it. And then it, you know, people who are baking, we called it procrastinating. And it just, you know, I would clean instead of doing my
Yeah.
thesis. So I was moving. And now I'm like, oh, I have to get this done because I'm excited about this, or, you know, edit this video or create this audio. And it's like, where's the movement and the food?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, we should just tell people, go eat, go for a
Yeah.
walk.
Go pick up some food. Go walk there and to pick up some food.
Yeah,
Well, I think bottom line, as you say, coming around full circle, it's that self-love, it's the compassion for yourself, it's knowing what feels better for you and creating the situation and the circumstances that will support that to give yourself the tools that you need to feel better.
yeah,
And whether that's staring out the window and giving yourself a mental break, to resting your body for the physical break, to having some meal plans or go to snacks or use a service or whatever it is, so that you know you're going to have good nutrient dense food. I know how much better I feel when I eat whole foods. I don't need to subscribe to the good food, bad foods, but I know when I feel better. And to make sure that I have those foods available, it just makes sense.
yeah. And it's not good food, bad food. It's foods that make your body feel energized and happy. And there's
Yeah.
foods that just don't. And, I feel picked up sometimes when I eat a bag of chips because it makes me happy. But some days I'll eat a bag of chips and it won't do anything. So it's what fills you up and makes you happy. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Great place to end it. What
always
fills you up?
a
What
chip.
makes you happy?
Good conversation, Sheila. Thank you so much for being part of it. And I hope people find this helpful to remind themselves that, take care of you and find things that lift you up and make you happy. So, any concluding statements, Sheila?
Simply thanks to everyone who were contributing in the chat. There was great conversation there, great suggestions. So anyone who watches this on the replay will have access to those. And thank you, Danay, for choosing the topic. It was very helpful for both of us and hopefully for others. So here we are. It was good. We'll do it again.
Yeah. All right. Much love to everyone. Take care of you and have some compassion. You're all doing great. So